And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is a Tuesday night, and the Springboks have announced their squad for this weekend up against the All Blacks. The grudge match, the big match that we pretty much wait for on a yearly basis, is set to take place on Saturday with another repeat fixture in a week's time and at Ellis Park. And Jacques Hinoba and his coaching staff have officially named the side to take on New Zealand. And it's a very interesting side with quite a lot of interesting changes, interesting decisions, some very big opportunities for some players. And for me, I think probably the biggest thing is that it is probably very close to the strongest 23 that we can put out within the squad of players who are fit. And also an interesting update, as the title of the video suggests, Rassie Erasmus is back with the Springboks. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what it could mean and what the sort of situation is with Rassie Erasmus. We've got quite a lot to talk about. Basically, we get to sort of really break down the team and sort of see where we're at and start sort of, start looking at kind of battles we can expect, for example, sort of major areas where we think the game will be won and lost, and sort of your reaction on the team itself. We did speak about quite a bit last night about sort of which selections we were going to make, where the interesting calls were to be, and I do think that we are, as I said, I think we are looking at something quite close to our strongest 23. In terms of players that were not available, I don't think Dwayne Vermeulen was past fit for selection. Kobus Reinach, for example, is out for the New Zealand series, but a positive update for him. He could be set to be available for the Australia series, which is very exciting because we haven't seen Kobus Reinach play for the Boks in quite a while. And then no France staying on the side, although he is fit and as part of training. Kobus Reinach is back in training, but not taking contact, stuff like that. It's a very interesting side. It's a very interesting couple of days we then got. It was interesting to see what the coaches, we spoke to both Sam Kane today as well as Jacques Hinoba and Faf de Klerk. And the common sort of theme that we're seeing in both camps is neither one being willing to sort of rule the other one out. And obviously, as the All Blacks, very much not ruling themselves out, I think probably more important rather than sort of looking to rule the Boks out. But so I think it's going to be an interesting couple of days of build up. The All Black squad will be announced on Thursday, so we will obviously have that press conference up as well. We'll be there. Tomorrow we'll have another press conference up from the Springboks. We'll have Springbok content up every single day until Saturday. All Blacks will have no content up tomorrow, but we will have on Thursday. So plenty to sort of look out for. But get your questions down in the comments. Let me know what you think of the size. Let me know what you think of the match itself. What you think could be happening. What your sort of reaction was to the initial squad. Let's see who's in the comments. So I'm seeing JD was here. I see you at Sprint Swart is here. Alderina saying love the Marks are starting, best two in the world. Talking about the impact of the low fault. There's not that much sort of impact from an altitude perspective. It's not the high fault, which is playing at altitude. It's sort of literally sitting sort of halfway in between. So it's not obviously the same as playing at sea level, but there are conditions that will change because we are in the low fault here. And those sort of conditions will probably be your sort of the fact that it's set to be quite humid this weekend. The ball will probably be quite slippery. So that's something that they need to sort of adapt to and be prepared for. So from a conditions point of view, it is set to be quite warm. 30 degrees, I think, scheduled on Friday, which is quite nice. Hopefully nice clear weather for my drive back to Johannesburg. But Lituation saying Arts will step up, trust 100%. Southern Canvas saying, why has he come back though? Doesn't he like being direct anymore? Is Waterboy duty more enticing? We'll talk about Rassie Erasmus in a moment. Tim van den Berg says, Trevor ahead of Ox. Interested to see how Murat goes on as likely Evans understudy. Box in desperate need of second front jumper. I'm very excited that Arki is back training for Munster. Musa saying, please help me. What do the coaches see that I didn't see? But Murat, he doesn't boss the game line. Always defense is dominant in his tackling. Tight exchanges. Help me. What do they see in him? I think they see a potential future bar captain, to be perfectly honest. I think the Stormers also see a potential captain in him as well. Why does the Springboks announce team so early? I don't actually know, to be honest. I know that they don't train on Thursdays, for example. So I think last year we sort of saw teams being leaked and stuff like that, and literally we saw a team being leaked and we're supposed to play on, I think we're supposed to have the announcement on the Wednesday. It was leaked on like the Monday, and from the weekend after that, they announced it on Tuesday, and they've kind of just stuck with it. So I'm not quite sure why they've done it, whether we ever will go back towards not doing it that way, but it is why we do it at the moment. So we're kind of running with it. How did I hope you well? Tim Berg saying low fall about 650 meters above sea level, not Loftus tier. Silas says surprising to see Murad Alif from an All Blacks game. Interested to see how he stands up to them. Was hoping to see low carry on. Definitely PSDF the toy replacement, says Brody. So I mean, first of all, if we look at the side, so Trevor, Malcolm Marx, and Frans Malherbe, it's a pretty power gun front row, and Malcolm Marx starting because it's his 50th test, basically. And sort of Jacques by saying that they try to always sort of start players on their sort of big occasions, as long as it doesn't affect the sort of the flow of the team. So they're not going to do it just for the sake, but if they can accommodate them, for example, if it is a situation where they are playing a major milestone match and them starting can still fit within what the plans are, then they said they do try to do it. So that is that it was definitely a part of the factor. It wasn't just every single time you get to 50 means you start. It's just as long as it sort of aligns with the plan. And I think that Malcolm Marx is interesting because we've had so many people complain about the fact that he wasn't starting, and that he was so good off the bench. And people are saying he's so good off the bench, why doesn't he start? And now that he's starting, a lot of people are saying they're nervous about him not having finishing. So, and let's be honest, Malcolm Marx is probably in the top 2-3 best players in the squad at the moment. For me, the best hooker in the world, and incredibly important for the Springboks. And it's sort of become very important, especially in the latter stages of the game, because of his prowess around the breakdown. In that he wins such important penalties. And what's been very important about his game, in fact, de Klerk actually spoke about it in the press conference, is how hard he's worked on improving his line-out ability and making sure that he's no longer a liability when it comes to the set piece from a line-out perspective. So he has worked very hard on that. What I do say is I don't think there is a tremendous amount of difference between Bongi Mbambi and Malcolm Marx. Bongi Mbambi very much more confrontational, very aggressive in his ball carrying and defensive abilities. Malcolm Marx is sort of a bit more quiet, a bit more reserved, but he will sit down people if he has to. He's not going to miss tackles. He's an incredibly physical presence, and then a phenomenal player at the breakdown. So I think it's a very good front row. I'm not surprised to see Trevor Nukani backed. A lot of people calling for Ox and Chair. I don't think there's much of a difference. But a year ago, I think Trevor Nukani was playing some of his best rugby. We've seen him in a Springbok shirt. So I've got no issue with him starting as well. And Stephen Kitshoff's going to be the man off the bench. So it all comes down to who will start. In the second row, Ibn Etzebet, Diago, no surprises there. Sia Khaleesi, Pierce, the Toy, and Jasper Wiese. Jasper Wiese under a little bit of pressure. I kind of feel like he's almost becoming that player that will always be under pressure, because unfortunately, he is a player that has a couple of mistakes in his game, but he can have absolutely blinded. And what we saw in the first Welsh test, for example, is his ball carrying ability, his sort of battering ram attitude. And I think against us in All Blacks defense, where a lot of people are saying they're not really sort of standing up, they're not really bringing the physicality. It's a very big weapon to have a Jasper Wiese who's just going to be running at them hard all day. So, but I do think he's under a bit of pressure because he was pulled off quite early in the third test for tactical reasons because he was having a bit of a mare. So a big opportunity for him to stake a claim, and I asked him when we had the press conference in Joburg, what's the competition like in the forwards, in the fact that there was still Master Sia there, Evan Roos was there, there was no Dwayne Vermeulen, but now Dwayne Vermeulen's back in the camp. So Jasper Wiese will be sort of looking over his shoulder the entire time, saying, well, when Dwayne's back, they're going to want to put Dwayne in. My job is to basically make sure that they don't want to because I'm playing that well. So it's a big opportunity for him this weekend against the All Blacks to really stake a claim and just say that he is currently the number 2 eighth man, but if he has another poor performance, the more sort of pressure starts moving towards maybe giving Evan Roos a go, maybe starting Quacker Smith and looking at other options. In fact, Kirk comes back into the starting lineup, and I completely understand that situation. You want to have as much experience as you can in a match like this at the end of the day. And Patrick Clerk brings that experience. 39 tests. He'll be playing on his 39th test on Saturday. He's back in the low files where he came through. Him and Vincent Cocker, former Pumas players that have come sort of through the environment. So good for them to sort of come back to make full circle. And no real surprise in the backline. The big sort of question mark was going to be, was Curtly Oranser or was it Jesse Field? They've gone with Curtly Oranser. And Jacques Nienaber saying that very much he brings the same sort of qualities or the same sort of style, the same sort of aspect to the game that a Cheslin Colby does. More than just the fact that he wears a scrum cap and he's just quite a small player, but he is very quick. He's got very good acceleration. He's very good with ball in hand. But I think the important thing, and when it comes to making it as a Springbok winger, it's about your off the ball work. It's about how much you will chase down balls, what you'll do defensively. You'll make sure that you've got to work very hard in the defense. And as someone who's a full back, he is quite comfortable under the high ball, which is quite important because we know there is going to be a massive kicking contest on Saturday. At the end of the day, if you think it's not, you just haven't been paying attention. And what we've actually seen is that globally, the amount of sort of in-game kicking is actually increasing. And the 50-22 rule, for example, I wouldn't say it has necessarily reduced the amount of kicking, it's actually added it, but it's added a new dimension to the types of kicks we are seeing. Territory rattles very much becoming quite important as the set piece becomes very central to a lot of teams' game plan. We're the same, so it's all about, for us, our tactical kicking was either, kicking to retrieve with up and unders and then putting pressure, turnover ball, for example, or it's a territory game in terms of waiting for them to make the first mistake. When they make a clearance, suddenly you've got a line out just outside the 22 where you can use a rolling ball, get yourself into attacking positions. So for me, I don't think there's anything wrong with the kicking game. It's about whether you can execute it correctly and make sure that it actually becomes an attacking weapon. It becomes a way of moving forward and not just a sort of we've kind of run out of ideas, therefore we're going to go to the boot. But it will be a big kicking contest. The All Blacks will kick a lot. We'll kick a lot. That's what Test match rugby is. Test match rugby is not just keep the ball in the hand all the time, throw it around and see what happens. It's, there are such fine margins that, things like kicking battle, things like territory are very important in a Test match environment. On the bench, the big surprise is Salman Murat. And I think we have to be very honest at the moment is we need to look at managing workloads, for example. Even Etzebeth goes down. Who is our number 4? Who is stepping into that position? And that's kind of a bit of a problem because we don't really have a second choice. So Salman Murat is the second choice, number 4. And you've got Marvin Ori who can step in for Lua Diago. You've got Ruan Nokia who can step in. You've got Frank Amos who can step in. But there are players who have all traditionally been a sort of second line jumper. They don't like to jump in the front. And a very sort of different type of player to an Eben Etzebeth. And Salman Murat is somebody who is incredibly highly rated by Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nienaber. And I think that even with the Stormers as well, he's also very highly rated. So I don't think he's had his best season in the last season for the Stormers, but I was incredibly impressed with him at junior levels. And he does bring a lot of physicality. He is a very large player. I mean, there's one thing I can say that when you're within the environment. I mean, today, for example, you go to the press conference and all the Box players are having lunch, stuff like that. You kind of walk past players, you say hi to players, stuff like that. There are certain players which you don't realize are as big as you might think they are. Salman Murat is a very big player. I mean, he's 2 meters tall. He's 116 kgs. He is a very large unit. And I do think he can be, maybe, I mean, nobody's going to be an Eben Etzebeth type enforcer, or Brody Retallick. They are very special, unique players. But I do think that he can bring that physicality and he can be quite an imposing player if he gets it right. And he might not have had the best season, but I think that he's somebody worth investing in. He captained the junior box. They do view him as a potential Springbok captain in the future. And we do need to look at our depth when it comes to if Eben Etzebeth goes down, what do we do? Because we've been incredibly blessed by the fact that Eben Etzebeth, generally, touch wood, hasn't gone down. He's played 100 tests and he's 30 years old. That doesn't happen very often. I mean, you're only playing 12 sort of 13 tests a year. So he's been playing, for 10 years. I think it was a stat like he's missed like 5 tests or something stupid in that time. So it's amazing what sort of how we've never actually needed to worry about depth in that position because he just doesn't get injured. But if he does, we're going to suddenly have to sit back and go, hang on, what do we do now? So I don't mind the selection of Salman Murat. And I think that Franco Mossad has proved over the sort of last year that he can play on the flank. He can play at lock. He can play wherever he needs to be. So between Salman Murat, Franco Mossad and Kwagga Smith, we literally do cover 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 very easily. Kwaka Smith can play across the back row. Frank Moss can play at 7, can play at both locks. Salman Murat can play at both locks. So we're very much covered with regards to how we want to make our impact in the second half. Jaden Hemsworth, Villaroo, I think was a nice place to be able to come off the bench. And it's interesting because obviously Villaroo not playing a very different role, but as I said last night that I still think that he'll be in the 23 because he is so important to the Bok game plan. As a first receiver alternative when he comes on, he dictates play. He's very good at reading the game. And I don't think he's ever going to get the praise he probably deserves from a large portion of the Springbok fan base. But I've got no issue with the selection. I think that we saw against Wales how important he can be for the Boks. And I think that it's a very useful thing for him to be coming off the bench and being able to bring that sort of calmness. And apart from that, it's a stunning bench. It really is. Going to some of the comments. Gareth saying they're told World Rugby they set the team on Tuesday and that's why they need referee back on Sunday. Did someone say they were hoping to see a replacement for Piers the Toy? I think somebody said that somebody could be the next Piers the Toy. Do you reckon we'll see the same sort of 23 when we go to Australia? I do think we'll see a few differences. Probably not too many, but maybe in that. Again, it also depends on the results. If you go bang bang and you beat New Zealand twice, for example, you go to Australia and win the first game, you could probably afford to maybe make a couple of changes. The thing with the Rugby Championship is that we are seeing now a change in format. We're seeing back-to-back games. You'll play against one team both away, one team both at home, and then one team one away, one at home. So we've got back-to-back away games against Australia. Last year, we lost both of those games. So we've got a big thing to prove when we go to Australia. I do think we'll tend to try and rotate a bit more when we go to Argentina, or rather when Argentina come here. And if things go right, and you've wrapped up the Rugby Championship, for example, by the time Argentina come to Durban in September, you've got a license. But I don't think we're going to see that much rotation because we know in the back of our minds we've got an end-of-year tour where we are going to be playing midweek matches. Apparently, could even play a midweek match against a New Zealand 15. So there's so much opportunity in the end-of-year tour to give Evan Roos go. I think he could play 240 minutes in a Bok jersey in those three sort of midweek games, as well as potentially playing against Italy. Somebody like Intutu Kontonu could get 150 minutes of near test match rugby. Players like Salman Murat can get a start, for example. Players like Joseph Dweber can really sort of give it a lot of opportunity to say, right, listen, just prove us to number 3. You have a couple of hours on the wings. We need to see something from you to sort of say that you can do this job. Yeah, I don't think we'll see that much rotation during the Rugby Championship because we've got that end-of-year tour opportunity. Do you think there's an element of doubt running through the All Blacks in these times? It seems they are unsure of their abilities because of Ireland. I hope we can take advantage of that. There has to be. They very much said that they're not. But there has to be. There has to be a certain amount of we're not what we used to be. And I think with that comes a lot of pressure in terms of they're kind of feeling that they're letting the New Zealand brand down, which is a huge thing when you think of how big New Zealand rugby is, how important that brand is, how much history goes into that All Black jersey. And I do think a lot of the moment they've kind of feeling that they're letting the brand down. And therefore, they're going to be incredibly hungry to prove a point. And if there was ever a time to prove that this All Black side is still the All Black side, it would be beating the Springboks in South Africa, especially maybe not so much as this week as next week, because I think for me, beating the All Blacks in Ellis Park, beating Springboks in Ellis Park is as big a game you can get outside of World Cup and a British and Irish Lions series. I genuinely do. Outside of a Lions test, outside of a World Cup quarter semi-final, the biggest game for an All Black is probably that away game at Ellis Park against the Springboks. Because it's the biggest rivalry in rugby, the Springboks All Blacks. And that is, the house of pain for the Boks. Ellis Park is where we get the job done. It's where we've won a World Cup. It's where we beat New Zealand. It's where, when in doubt, you take a team to Ellis Park at altitude with 65,000 people, and you say, right, beat us now. This is the cauldron really, and that's what we have next week. Brett, thanks so much. It's gifted 5 memberships. That's really. I think it's the first time somebody's actually gifted memberships, which is quite cool, and giving it to the OGs as well. So thanks so much, Brett, for the contribution. That really does mean a lot. Tian say Aronson also a fair bit taller than Colby, might be helpful in the kick chase, similar to Freddie Stewart's role. Yeah, look, he's not that. Look, he is a bit taller, but he's not. He's not a big. I tell you what, that's somebody you talk about people who are big. Curtly Arendse walked past me today, and you could very well think he's part of the coaching staff. He just doesn't look like a rugby player. He's not. He's very trim. He's quite lightweight. I mean, he's about 76 kgs, and there's no criticism to him. But Colby, for example, like you've seen pictures of him without shirt and stuff like that. Colby's pretty heavy set. He's not a. He's I think he's 10 centimeters shorter than Curtly Arendse, but he's the same weight, if not a little bit heavier. So Colby looks like he's quite a physical player. Curtly Arendse kind of looks like a scrum half. And it doesn't help that he was sitting with Jaden Hendricks, who's not particularly small scrum half. But he's quite a small figure. But he did the job against Wales, and I think he deserves an opportunity. Brett said not a huge fan of Ori. The big news in the news. I forgot that sticker was up there actually. And he says, "You think this is a good enough team to beat a wounded All Blacks team?" I definitely do. So I missed the comments here. Have you had any interaction with the All Blacks team members yet? We had a stand-up today on the side of the field where we chatted to Sam Kane. I think it actually went live about half an hour ago. I think that so we spoke to Sam Kane, and I think sometimes it's almost quite nice to sort of move away a bit from rugby in terms of they were just sort of basically saying, how nice it is for them to be kind of touring again, because this is the first time the All Blacks have been in South Africa for 4 years. So some of these guys are touring South Africa for the first time ever, because if they didn't come here in the Super Rugby in 2019, there was no Super Rugby 2020, there was no Super Rugby for us in 2021, and then we've left. So, I think for them, unfortunately, from a South perspective, I think these 2 weeks for them, or a week rather, is probably exactly what they needed. Getting away from New Zealand, getting away from the pressure, and there is probably no better place to reset than the Lowveld. I mean, they've got a day off tomorrow, and so I think majority of them are also heading into the Kruger. You'll probably find if I go up to the golf course tomorrow, I'll probably see a couple of them out there. But I actually might even see them in Kruger, because I'm going first thing in the morning. So yeah, and I think that's probably it seemed like a very relaxed environment when we were there today. We watched them train for about 15 minutes. The intensity was up there, but it did seem like a pretty relaxed environment. And I think it's a side who have chosen their location very well. For example, they're very much in a bubble, not a bio bubble, but you go to the hotels all sort of cordoned off, and they've got their own sort of space. They're training at their venue, so they're not having to travel to different places. And I think they've sort of found themselves quite a nice environment where they can just sort of let loose a little bit and not be in the public eye so much. So I think it'll be quite conducive for them to really sort of reset and get ready for this weekend. Side camera says he did come off a long-term injury during the lockdown, though. If you're talking about, I'm not sure what you're talking about. As a big Stormer fan, I think, you're talking about Solomon Murata, because he did, for example. Mr. Boss is a big former fan. I think Smith was better in the URC, hoping I'm wrong, but was in Cape Stadium and never did boss the collisions. He's too light for number 4 bruiser. I mean, look, he's not. As I said, when you see him in person, it's one thing. It's so interesting because our reference point are heights and weight, aren't they? So you'll go and see, oh, well, he's this height, he's this tall, and he's this heavy. So you'll go and sit there saying, well, this guy's bigger. But I can tell you right now, Solomon Murata is a large player. Like when you stand next to him, he's large. I certainly wouldn't want to tackle him. Peanut Vake says 4.5 locks, 3.5 loosies. If Contender saying nearby backs, the 6-2 split versus All Blacks, he was proper willpower. I'd have preferred a 5-3 split. Happy for Curtly to get a start. Stay and Creel should feel hard done by. Garen says, Rassie CFAF starter, he needs to be on his game. Kicking game needs to be on point, 100%. Peanut Vake says, what if they play short lines and don't contest our lineup ball, quick line and ruck like they've done before? Well, we're going to have to adapt, aren't we? Who do you think the winner is the most important for SA or All Blacks? I think the All Blacks need to win more than we do, but playing at home, there's a lot of pressure for this team to perform. And unfortunately, and whether it's fair or not, this team doesn't get credit even if they do win games. It's not enough winning games for this team. It's about how you win them now, which I don't really agree with. I think it's about winning games, and if you can do that in a pretty way, fantastic. Even if you can't, if you're winning games, it's a small price to pay for me. Mr. Barr says Stephen, when is Caelan Mooney back? He's the backup 15 and 14, proper thoroughbred. He's the real deal. I don't know. I think he will be back for the URC at some stage. I haven't got a definite time. So I'm not entirely sure when he will be back. But I think he is the real deal. I mean, we're not going to see him before the World Cup, and nor should we. Give him another season of him playing at URC level, and then we can get him cooking after the World Cup. Lorenzo saying PSF, Toy, Visa, and Faf must prove their worth this weekend. Hope Kirtley score this weekend. He's a nice player. Hope Williams have a man of the match performance again. Yeah, look, I think PSF, Toy, we got a lot better in that third test, and he is someone who needs match fitness. And I think that 2 weeks and probably training quite hard, I think he will be the All Blacks again, that he often does step up. So I think we will start to see the better or the best PSF tour this weekend. What does Frank wants to give us a flank rather than an extra line-out option? I can tell you right now, he gives you 15 to 20 tackles. He won't miss a tackle. His work rate is incredible. He'll hit a lot of rucks. He'll do a lot of the hard yards. He will do the work that will allow Kwagga Smith, for example, space to run. I think that, so Frank, and this is the problem, I think that we're always sort of concerned about ball carriers in the second half. But you've got... Look, Frank Mossad actually... he throws his weight around for all that a lot of people don't rate him because he's not that heavy. He is a ball carrier. Bongi Benami is a very big ball carrier coming on the second half. Vincent Cost, even Kitsoff are very good ball carriers. Kwagga Smith's a very different type of ball carrier. So we don't necessarily need Frank Mossad from a ball carrying perspective. He does give you a very good line-out. So you can afford to replace Lewitt and Eben if they're both spent, but for me, it's he gives you percentage. He gives you exactly what he kind of guarantees you tackles that will be made, rucks that will be hit, carries. He's just such a consistent player. He's not necessarily going to break the line and create something out of nothing. He's not going to do an Eben Etzebeth where he might have this massive thumping tackle or massive ball carrying ability, or Lewis Diago, for example, but he operates at an 8 out of 10 almost every single week because he doesn't miss tackles. He works incredibly hard, and he's got that V12 engine where he can, if you look at like rush defense, for example, if you see a line break, for example, he almost every single time is the first player within the tight 5 to get back because he's just got that engine that keeps going. And so Brett's saying when is SA playing against Ireland tomorrow night up at 7. Brett says, Sam Kane looked very uncomfortable during his interview earlier. Yeah, look, to be fair, he had just come off an hour and a half of training, so could just be a bit tired. I wouldn't say, I think he was actually pretty relaxed before when he arrived and stuff like that. I think they're under a lot of pressure, and I think he's under a lot of, to a certain degree, I think, unjustified pressure. I don't think he's been as bad as a lot of people have been saying he is, but he is certainly under pressure. Pretender saying potential locks and flanks second half. Etzebeth, Murat. No, if Murat is at 4, he'll come on at 4. I'm telling you now, I don't think he won't come on at 5. I don't think we'll see Evan. I'll be surprised if we saw Evan play a full game. Look, we might see Murat at 5, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Etzebeth being subbed. 6 Khaleesi, 7 Mostert, 8 Smith. Khaleesi again very rarely plays a full game. So I think you will see him being replaced. 7 Mostert, 8 Smith, backline, 9 Jaden, 10 LaRue. 11 Pollard will play a full game as well, and I don't think our answer will not go to 15. We're not going to make those. Villiers will come on at be very surprised if Villiers comes on at 10 for who you got for there for no, who you got going here? Who you taking off here? You're taking off Pollard. No, you won't take. They won't take off Pollard, not unless he's having an absolute shit show every match. One Luce says, I believe we will take a split squad for our away game. Some players will remain at home and the rest will travel to either Australia or Argentina. No, I don't think we will because we've got so much time in between them. We need our first team for the Oz test, but I won't be surprised if we send a second team to Argentina. Yeah, probably more likely. Sanchez needs to perform. Dalton Papali'i is electric at 7 and so is Severe. If he doesn't perform as captain, he'll become a bench warmer if he gets worse. Squad member if worse Black Alley is in. We're talking about, do you think we will win 2-0 with them or be 1-1? I'm backing us to get the job done. Mostly, I love spending my lunch hour watching Forever Rugby live. Well, there we go. Do you think the way the box stack tackle suited to exploiting New Zealand defence can't shake the feeling that some of New Zealand's frailty rather, in the theory test series came from Ireland's attack specifically? Well, I think somebody who mentioned in the press conference in the last test, New Zealand conceded 2 more tries, which is Bok territory. It really is Bok territory. That's what we do. So, we might not find the gaps and fly over and play this expansive game. But if the All Blacks have a fundamental issue with and struggling to stop mauls, that's definitely a way that we can exploit them. What's your opinion of Rod Dupree as a flyer for international level? I wouldn't back him. Do you think they will have a better start in the first match compared to the first Wales? 100% hope so. What do you think about Jason Ryan? Do you think he will be stopped? They will stop our mauls. I think it'll probably be better, but I think that if we get it right, our maul is very difficult to stop at the best of times. Jason says, if Spoon was fit, would you still consider giving Arns a crack over him? No. If Spoon course was fit, I would have played him. Jamie saying, England started like a stream team in that semi-final and Ireland scored early in the match, all 3 games. This is how All Blacks are put under pressure early and chase game with low confidence, early pressure. So just quickly, because my camera is running out of the battery, we are in a bit of a on-the-go studio, so we don't quite have the same technical capacity as we usually do back in the studio in Johannesburg. But in terms of Rassie Erasmus being back, so we were at training today, open training with the box for the first 15 minutes, and Rassie Erasmus is with the squad. He was at training. He is with the squad. He is taking sessions this week. So he cannot be there on match day, so he can't be there on Saturday at the stadium. And he can't phone in on Zoom and stuff like that. But he is still allowed to be there at practices. He is still allowed to be with the team and stuff like that. So he is part of the team. And I think and the reason I actually want to make the point is that there's a bad growing sort of tendency to blame everything that happens badly on your coaches that we see. So your Zondita Sticks, your Dion Davids, your Jacques Niobas, nobody ever talks about Felix Jones, for example, because he doesn't front the media. People kind of forget about him. It's a little bit the same with Don Human, but we've got this bad growing tendency. When things go badly, it's their fault, and then everybody keeps saying Rassie needs to come back. And today was just another proof that Rassie's never left. Yes, he might not be there on match day, but he's still part of the preparations. He is still, heading up the style of play and how they're going to play and selection, stuff like that, so... And he is still responsible for the results. And that's not me assuming. That's from the horse's mouth. When he announced the restructuring, when he moved into director rugby, solely from director rugby, and Jacques Noble taking over the head coach, he said that Jacques would be taking over the sort of the operational side. So he'll be running practices, he'll be running sort of the weekly build up and stuff like that. But Rassie Erasmus is still responsible for the team results. So if someone gets sacked because of bad performances, it's Rassie Erasmus. Whether they sack him and and Zondita Stick and Dion Davis, etc., usually quite likely. So it often happens like that. But the first port of call is still Rassie Erasmus regarding to results, and that's what he has said. Not that what we're assuming, not what I'm sort of deciding. He has said that he is still the main man responsible for results. So when we win and when we lose, it's a collective. So when we lose, we have to blame all of them. When we win, we have to praise all of them. You can't selectively choose who to give praise to and who to criticize depending on the results. And I think it's important that going into this rugby championship that we are all on the same page with regards to that. So we will have a couple of hopefully some training photos out there tomorrow. We've got some training footage as well, which is quite cool. There's a lot of fun going out there and getting it all out and sorted. So yeah, but it is very cool to see. It was quite cool to see him back out on the pitch and stuff like that. I don't think we'll see him in front of the media and stuff like that at a press conference for a while. But he is back in September. I'm not entirely sure exactly when his ban comes to an end from a date point of view. I'm trying to see what date he was banned. So it was a 9-month ban. November 2021. Right, so there we go. So 17th of November. So in theory, he should be back for the final test. Actually, whether he will, I'm not sure. But in theory, he would be in contention to be in the box or on the sidelines for the last test of the Rugby Championship in September, which is down in Durban on the 24th September. So that's when, in theory, he could be back with the team on match day. That's when his ban will officially come to end. So the entire end of the tour, he'll be with the team and stuff like that. But yeah, people are going to start wrapping up there. We will be live tomorrow night again. And we should be live hopefully on Thursday for the fan forum, although we might maybe do a fan forum tomorrow. It might not be live on Thursday. We might do an early evening show on Thursday. I'm not sure what my plans are, what's happening with regards to some of the content stuff like that we need to shoot. But yeah, I think that personally, I'm quite happy with the team, and we did a poll, and the majority of people, 96% people said that they are happy with the team. I don't think it gets much stronger, The only positions we're really debating, if Dwayne Famino is fit, does he come in for Jasper Wiese? Probably. And then Chesn Colby, when he's fit, comes in for Arnster, but everybody seems to like that selection. So, there's no issues there. The big sort of question on the bench is somewhere at compared to going with the loose forward. For me, 6 for one, half dozen for the other. So I generally do think it is basically the strongest 23 we can put out. We can't get much stronger. And it is very much got enough firepower to get the job done. The question is, will it? Well, we'll find out on Saturday. But we'll have press conference up again tomorrow, as well as Thursday. Thursday we'll have lots of content up. We're going to be doing the All Black team announcement. So we'll chatting to Ian Foster, as well as a couple of players. And then Friday, it is set to be the Zondila Stick and Siglisi show, which is always a fun press conference, and we'll have that up. And then Saturday, we're going to have a lot of very cool build-up. All I'm saying is that we should schedule the watch-along the next day or two. Turn your notifications on for that watch-along, because it's going to be very cool. We're going to have a lot of content before, stuff that we're going to film. As I said, we're going to be in the Kruger tomorrow. We're going to be doing a bit of filming all around of Nelspruit and Mbombela, the White River and stuff like that. So it should be quite a cool build-up to be a part of. In terms of the order, we're probably going live about 1 o'clock with pre-packaged stuff for a couple of hours, and then I will be going live, or switching to live rather, from about 4 o'clock, where we'll be having an interactive sort of hour build-up, where we talk about team selection, predictions, and stuff like that. And then obviously the game gets underway at 5 o'clock on Saturday until 7 o'clock, and then we will be live for Argentina versus Australia on Saturday night as well. Please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We are past 15,000 subscribers, which is very exciting. And now I'd like to, for example, if we were to get 1,000 subscribers every week from now until the end of the Rugby Championship, we go past 20,000 subscribers. If we were to do that at the end of the year tour, for example, we could get up to 25,000 subscribers by the end of the year. But that only happens if you guys like the video, if you guys share with your friends, and if you are watching and you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow night for another live show. Keep well, keep safe. Follow my YouTube channel if you want to see, I'm doing a tour. I'm doing a blog this week of all the stuff and what's like going behind the scenes, stuff like that. So if you want to check that out, go and check out my YouTube channel. It's Stevie P. You can also follow me on Instagram as well, Stevie P Sport, also doing a lot of photos and stuff like that behind the scenes and things like that. But yeah, we'll see you guys all very soon, and good night.